Awesome. All right. Well, welcome. And I'm so excited to introduce everybody here to my good friend, Shelby Torrese. Um, I've had the pleasure of knowing Shelby since right before we both graduated from undergrad at UM. We actually met each other in a yoga class and we just kind of like talk like, oh, you're cool. Hi, before class. And then, my gosh, long star-crossed lover story, but we ended up being friends through one of my exes, and basically in that breakup, I got to keep Shelby and her husband Cade. So we have a magical story of how we came to be friends. But since then, we've gone to stay friends. Since Shelby was living in California, I was in Miami. Now she's in Austin, and somehow the stars just keep on aligning to bring us together. So this is the wonderful, beautiful Shelby.
Thank you. What an intro.
Oh my gosh, there's so much more I could say there, but we'll spare everyone.
We'll get into
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, yes, I'm excited to have Shelby because she is the owner of an amazing holistic wellness practice called Moonray Wellness, where she practices NRT, which I learned is nutrition response therapy. I actually have had the honor of working with Shelby as a client a little bit. So I kind of know firsthand a little bit of the magic that she brings to her clients. Um, so that's um, part of what you're up to. You do so many amazing things for your family, your community. But beyond that, Shelby is also 8 months pregnant, about to have her first baby. So this was like rush to get you on here before, you go into like your nesting and whatnot.
Yes, thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So, as you know, I want to dive into this conversation of you and your voice because you have such a strong and powerful voice, and it's something that I so admire. I think as someone who's struggled a lot to use my voice, you've been such a role model to me of like how to, but I also am your friend, and I know that that hasn't like just been an easy peasy natural journey. So I just want to get into this today.
Thank you. And I also want to acknowledge I think it's nice to have friends on not necessarily opposite ends of the spectrum, but I also admire your ability to I don't need to respond to that. Like I've had to learn to keep my voice quiet sometimes, and that's kind of the balance. But yeah, I definitely speak my mind. For
Yeah,
better or
yeah.
worse.
Oh my gosh, totally. No, and honestly, I think that this conversation is going to help us like continue to learn from each other because yeah, we're always like trying to figure out our road forward. And I do feel like for both of us, it's actually sort of landing in this middle ground. But regardless, you have an amazing story. And yeah, let's get into it. So I don't even totally know what your response to this will be, but if we go all the way back to like you being a kid, finding your voice, what were your early experiences of using your voice? Like, yeah, what did you learn as a young kid about speaking and sharing?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I had parents who really encouraged me to be independent, and I liked that. I'm like, no, I can order my food when I was young. Like, I didn't want them to order for me. I wanted to be seen and recognized and heard. And I think part of that came from them just including me in their life. I was around a lot of adults who, you know, really connect with other adults, not necessarily kids. So I had to somehow make myself known and heard and hey, I'm here too. So I think there's that positive aspect of it. A not so positive aspect, I think as a child, I was a little bit harsh in how I used my voice. I was definitely not the nicest kid on the playground. And I've had to live with that and learn from it. Just be grateful for it somehow that it's evolved. But yeah, I remember just kind of feeling like my words were daggers at times and I could see it impact people. And I was too young to really recognize oh, that's hurtful. That's something that could last. Um, which probably doesn't paint me in the best light, but it is part of my story. And it's how, I've kind of swung from one end of the pendulum to the other and found myself in this middle ground. So I think I've definitely evolved a lot since a kid, which most of us have, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Um, but yeah, I think because I just saw how you could grab attention from people with what you say, whether it was good or bad. I didn't really care at that age. It was just, if eyes are on me, ears are on me, I'm happy. And I think that came from that piece of being around a lot of adults and like letting my parents kind of bring me into their life, and sometimes being the only kid around. I was an only child for a long time. My sister and I are 7 years apart. So I felt like I had some of that solo time to be like, okay, I need to present myself and like, I don't know, state my case every room I walked into, even as a kid, which is bizarre.
No, totally. I think a little bit of like what you're talking about, I resonate with from like oldest daughter, um, but also from being like significantly or like enough older than your siblings that you are amongst the adults and you do sort of need to like make your presence known in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know, for whatever reason, I also felt it that way. Um, but I also like, yeah, I really respect what you're talking about because I do think that a lot of people learn their lessons from. I was just talking to my brother about this, and it's just like, oh, it really like sucks to sit with like what I shouldn't have done. He's also a Sag.
Mm,
Um,
we're
yeah.
fiery.
But I mean, we all have some version of that, and it's not for the faint of heart. I just always think like, you can also sit there and not learn and not take away from the times that you were less than perfect in the world. So I respect that part of your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay. So yeah, you, I guess then obviously kind of like connected to your voice found at an early age. How does health and wellness tie in? Like even before this kind of became a huge part of your identity, how did speaking and wellness interact earlier on? Or like
I
even
love
like
this.
college? Yeah.
Yeah, I love this question because I don't think it was clear to me until much later in life how much our emotions and feelings and the words that we speak play a role in our physical health. I grew up, I don't want to say very sick, like that makes it sound like I was in hospitals and stuff, but I was very unwell in the sense that I always had stomach aches or I always had the flu like over and over. And I was just constantly in a state of discomfort. And as a kid, you're not as connected to your body enough to know, like, oh, I'm acting out because my stuff, like, I'm not digesting my food. So it's been interesting to look back and just recognize patterns like, oh, I was eating this way. I lived in a home that had an energy of this, and all of these problems were happening at the same time. Like, that's not a coincidence. So,
Mhm.
I think part of my healing journey physically has also forced me to refine my voice, just even the way I speak to myself, the way I speak about others or don't speak about others, has really shifted my mindset of how much our voice, our lively or our lifestyle, everything we do plays a role in our health. And so I think realizing how much those two overlap has been just game changing for not only myself, but myself as a practitioner working with other people.
Yeah, 100%. I think about that a lot too, of like just being like, the tie. I mean, I think more so in my case, like around anxiety and food or eating or not eating and all of those pieces that like came together to um that make up the baseline of your mental health, essentially. And I always say you need those foundations right before you can as an adult do any deep diving.
Totally.
But it's also true as a kid, like you need the foundation right to be able to like building blocks up, make up a healthy, confident, well adjusted person in the world.
There's no coincidence that like the angriest version of myself was also the sickest. It's like now it's
Yeah.
so obvious why.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. And then similar but different, when did you in your friend group and your family become a voice of health and wellness? When did that start to come online?
Definitely later in life. Like I was not someone in that either growing up didn't have like a health focused home, like we always ate out, there was always
Mm-hmm.
dessert, like it was the free for all in terms of like naughty foods. um in college, so end of high school, it was really clear that there was something wrong with me. Like my stomach was always hurting. I was super bloated and inflamed. Eating anything at all triggered like eczema or discomfort, what you name it. And so early in college, my mom, and this was like very early stages of like gluten free time.
Right.
So
Oh my gosh, that's probably
um,
awful.
it was not as tasty as it is now. But my mom was like, hey, at that point I'd been to gastrosurgeons, allergists, like I'd been to so many different doctors. My mom was like, hey, why don't we just try this gluten-free thing? Like I've seen and read a little bit about it. Let's just see if it helps. After 1 week of not doing any gluten, I was a totally different person. My brain fog had lifted. I felt so much less inflamed. My stomach wasn't always bloated. I was like, oh, let's do this forever. This is definitely what I needed. And so I always talk about that moment as my like peek down the rabbit hole, because when you go gluten free, you have to pay attention to ingredients. So I was constantly at the grocery store reading, making sure there wasn't gluten in anything. And that's when I started to read what else is in our food. I'm like, what is all this? I can't pronounce these things. I've never heard of these things. Is this food? So that really was my like push and shove down a rabbit hole of like, what's in our food? What are we consuming? How is it affecting us? And the rest is history.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. That timing makes sense because you and I would have met about 4 years later
Mm-hmm.
and become friends like 5, 6 years later. So at that point, I remember when I was doing my yoga teacher training, you were like, uh, I don't know, I just feel like you were kind of like shining like a light, like a few steps ahead. You were a yoga teacher at that point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just in general, I feel like when I had health questions, I knew that I could like bounce them off of you. Um, so I guess that between like that late high school, post college, that kind of like grew slowly over time, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
So you're right. I had gotten my yoga certification my sophomore, maybe junior year of college. I forget. Somewhere around there. So that
Mhm.
also just tied into like, oh, mind body connection. Okay, I'm cleaning up
Mhm.
my diet. I'm feeling good that way. Now I'm kind of cleaning up my like spiritual aura. Everything's really feeling good. I'm down in this rabbit hole. I don't want to come up because I love everything I'm learning down here. You guys got to come see this. Like, I was definitely that person, and I loved being that person. Like, yeah, let's talk about the stuff that, most people aren't. I always think back to like early college, everyone's first conversations were like, hi, what's your name? What's your major? And then I knew I found my people when they'd be like, so what do you think about? And then like insert taboo topic. I'm like, I'm so glad you asked. But yeah,
In
yes,
fact.
yes. So yeah, that made me get into a little bit of nutrition coaching as well. That didn't spark my passion very much. I didn't love telling people like what to and not to eat, so I kind of stepped away from that. And I'm sure we'll get into NRT journey, but yeah, it just all kind of started to come together: mind, body, spirit, voice, refinement, and it just, yeah, those were some very transformational years of my life that I just treasure.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And yes, I think having started that journey slightly after, this is all making sense to me because I didn't know you then. Um, but yeah, I mean, you've definitely always throughout the years been my friend that I can call and talk about the weird thing with. I'm like, oh, Shelby's gonna get it. Like she's not gonna bat an eye if I ask her this like super out there question,
Not at
or
all.
bring up some weird shit I heard on the internet.
I've been
She,
dying for you to ask.
yeah, exactly. Literally could say anything to you. So that's why, not the only reason, but one of the many reasons I value our friendship. Um, but then, okay, so I'm gonna just like fast forward to the juice then, because during COVID, things really shifted. I feel like you had been a reliable voice for people, um, even like our distant friend groups and stuff from college and back in the day. And you had, whatever, your people online could trust you for certain things. Um, And then it was just like a crazy rubber band effect the other way. I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this, but like,
I
just
know.
talk to me a little bit about that. Okay, no, I'll
So,
start here.
yeah.
Yeah, you used your voice during COVID. You spoke out about opinions that were not mainstream, and we were all terrified. Like, right, everybody in the world was afraid. But you just said what was on your mind, and it didn't go super spectacularly in some ways. So,
No, it didn't. It did for me looking back in the end, but it
yeah.
was definitely, and I love this theme that we're kind of sticking with, it was definitely a voice refining moment because I thought everyone's feeling what I'm feeling, everyone's thinking what I'm thinking. Like, I'm just the one to say it. And I was so like proud of myself for that. And when I got so much backlash that this is not what people think. They do not believe that our bodies are strong and meant to heal. They do not believe we are bigger than this thing. They do not believe we should be outside. Like, just the most bizarre things that I had to step back and be like, oh, I am in the silent majority, but I am in the like vocal minority.
Yes.
And it took a toll on me, and that was another again moment where my my health took a toll because my social emotional health just plummeted. Like, friends that I'd had for decades decided that I was dangerous, and like I was just, I don't know what was going through their mind. People were very unwell during COVID,
Yeah.
probably because they were staying inside. Um, but it was just this really, really difficult time for everybody. And I'm not saying like, oh, because I felt this way, I was the only one struggling. Everyone was struggling in very different ways. And I think people didn't take the time to recognize that. Like, not to toot my own horn, but I felt like I could recognize like even someone that thinks totally opposite of what's going on in the world than me is struggling. Like, they are not well, just like I'm not well because all of my friends, not all, but like a big chunk of my friends decided that they didn't want to be my friend anymore because of my voice, because of the things I was saying and using my voice for. I'll never forget, I posted a picture of me protesting at the Capitol in California, like, open our businesses. It was very different than Florida. Open our businesses, let us outside, like the most insane things that looking back, I can't believe people fell for. But I was there to speak up for people that were afraid to do that or didn't know how to do that. And I remember posting a picture on Instagram, like, this is gonna do so well. Like, I just did something so hard and cool. And like, I stood up for people and I got berated. Like,
Yeah.
you are at a super spreader event and like this is so irresponsible. And I was just like, what? Like, I'm dreaming right now. Like, there's no way people believe this is the right way to be handling things. Or it was just a time where people were intentionally pitted against each other. And I think what was so seemingly obvious to me was that that was the case. Like, hey, we're supposed to be fighting. Like, the puppet strings are being pulled. You were supposed to be doing this. So let's not do that. Let's actually find a common ground. I don't care if you want to stay inside for the rest of the year. I don't, so I should have that right. I don't want to wear a mask ever, so I shouldn't have to. Like, there were just all these things that I couldn't believe people were standing for and fighting for. But again, that was just like a voice refining moment where I had to kind of scale back in order to be heard, because I think sometimes I come in so hot thinking people are on the same page as me, and that's just not the case. People haven't experienced the things we've experienced, seen the things we've seen, been the people we've been. So, I can't judge someone for not, being in the same headspace as me, just like I would hope they wouldn't judge me for not being in their headspace. But yeah, wild times.
Yeah, no, it was so wild, and it was really hard to watch. And actually, it's so funny that you mentioned that of like it wasn't Florida, because I was in Florida. I was in Miami. I went to a secret music festival that was supposed to be like tiny. I got there. It was like a small ultra. Like I I didn't know I was going to that, but I was like, whoa, okay, there's like a lot happening here. That was like October of 2020. It was a different world.
Mm-hmm.
But even me being in that world and teaching breathwork classes, by the way, I had people like breathing in my face every morning. Um, and I was fine. That, regardless of all of that, I just still struggled so much. And your content scared me for you because I saw people reacting. And I'll never forget what your husband said at one point. He said, Shelby's gone from being the like go to for health and wellness in our friend group to being a public health risk. And it was so true. Like, it was just crazy how, like, one day to the next, there was just like that flip where people were literally afraid of you. I mean, people who
Mm-hmm.
like I know you, people who don't really know you. It was. I mean, obviously, like we have like all these shared networks, and it was just so. Oh, yeah, I was like unsettled on your behalf, and your content would like make my heart race, not because like you were saying anything even that crazy. Like you just had like you're just like walking around outside, but it yeah, it really scared me on your behalf. And looking back on it, I don't know. There's so much there. But yeah, I think that what you're saying basically is it taught you like using my voice, even if it was really ringing true for me, doesn't mean that other people are agreeing with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a scary time, like especially in California where people are already baseline crazy. I
I
would
love
go to the
California.
store.
It's so hard. I love it there. But
I
yeah.
know. I would go to the store without a mask and like literally grown men would cry tears. I'm like, is no one gonna question this? Like, I can't be the only sane person in Los Angeles. And I wasn't. There were so many of us that really like just found each other online, found each other at these rallies to be like, "Oh my gosh, I thought I was alone." And it's like, "Yes, that was the point. Like that was the goal for us all to feel alone so we would just obey." And yeah, Kate didn't love me going out by myself because I was just who I am is who I am. Again, for better or worse. So what I was saying online was 1% of what I was actually doing out in the wild. And it was a strange time.
Yeah. No, and I think like, you weren't going around like ripping anybody else's face mask on. You're just saying like, yo, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that maybe that brings us full circle to what we were talking about a couple of months ago at my batch,
Mm.
which was, yeah, this kind of, I guess, what you've learned since. And you shared this mantra with me that you've been using of, I'm not everybody's teacher. And I love that. I would love to dig more into that because we didn't have all the time to do that at my batch. But I just like, I know there's something for me to learn in there and I want to hear it.
Yeah, that's been like an ongoing lesson for me really since COVID. And
Hmm.
like we just mentioned, not everybody's on the same page. Not every and that's the beautiful thing about life and friendships. Everyone's different. But I think I assumed that, you know, I felt like, especially COVID time, I held this like capital T truth, and I had to learn that that's my truth. That isn't yours or my neighbors or random people online. We all have our own version of truth, and
Hmm.
so instead of me always having a response or an explanation or like having to share my opinion with everyone, I've had to learn that I'm not everyone's teacher, and I'm not meant for everyone. That's been very clear my whole life, but especially the last couple of years, like I I now kind of wait for people to come to me or ask me versus like them just stating an opinion or something, let's say, and then me jumping in like, "Oh, well, you must want to know what I have to say about this." Not necessarily, as I've
No.
learned. So, it's been a really freeing experience to just not always share what I have to say and kind of keep that more sacred than ever before. Like, even going back to childhood, always feeling like I had to make myself known and here's what
Mm.
I think, like people should hear what I think. It's been really freeing and just a whew moment in my life to be like, no, actually, these conversations and these feelings and layers of myself are exclusive to people who are going to care for them and respect them and want them. So it's been, yeah, it's been tough but important journey.
Yeah, and I think that that's really representative of what all of us have been experiencing in one domain or another over the past, I don't even know how long anymore, like at least 10 years, because, you know, rewind several elections, not to make this whatsoever political, but literally at every point since, there was this time where everybody, no matter how you voted, was like, oh my God, like 50%, like everybody that I thought agreed with me doesn't. And I think that this was shocking for everybody, like every single
Totally.
person,
Yeah.
again, no matter how you voted. So it, and that's continued to be the case. Then, we find like we don't, like same thing, like we're 50% divided on, this health topic, this idea about family, this idea about religion. It's just, I think that we've all woken up to the idea of like, whoa, okay, I thought maybe because I was in a bubble that everybody agreed with me, but the reality is not everybody does. And I think that this is something that we're kind of learning as humanity, of like, okay, we have these different opinions, what do we do with that, is sort of like, I think probably more so where we're at now. And I think that what you're saying is really beautiful, because you're saying, like, I don't always have to do something with that at all, especially because this is so scary for us. The polarization has been a scary thing, it's
Yeah.
resulted in scary world events.
Mm-hmm.
So every time that we feel this charge of difference between like you and me, it puts us in this full nervous system fight or flight state. So kind of what you're saying is like that you found a lot of power in just being like, I'm not getting into it right now. Like, or
Yeah.
yeah,
And in the best way, like, I don't care. I don't care
yeah,
what you do. And I think people have become so offended by opposing beliefs, opinions, whatever it may be, that they now have lost the ability to just see the humanity in someone. Like, oh, we were friends for so long. Once you dropped that one topic in the bucket, it tainted the whole thing for me. And it's like, why?
yeah,
I read something that has just really stuck with me. It was like, what did it say? If if you feel confident in your beliefs or your decisions, you won't care about mine. And that just like that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, yes, that's what I've been trying to say. Like, especially now, kind of jumping into, the pregnancy with birth decisions, parenting decisions, like if you are confident in how you brought your child into the world, how you've decided to parent, the materials and products that you've decided to buy, why does me sharing what I'm going to do offend you so much? Like, you must not be that confident in your choices. That's how I feel. And so I think people, including myself at times, we just need to step back and be like, that's for you and this is for me. And it doesn't make you or me better or worse. We're just who we are. I don't have to be you, you
yeah,
don't have to be me.
100%. Okay, but then give us the tea. What are the things that have upset people that you're doing?
Oh my God, let me pull up my scroll. For one, we plan to do a home birth. That is very triggering for people. And not necessarily, um, everyone in our personal lives. I think just because of who I am, people know to expect the wildest things from me. So they don't really like always touch those topics with me. But even just posting online, I've gotten the most bizarre comments like how irresponsible, my baby's life is more important to me than that, which is why I'm going to be in a hospital. And it's like, ugh, where do I even begin? Like, I'm not gonna do the research for you, and that comes back to the like, I'm not everybody's teacher. I would have people message me like, show me the research, show me the stats. I'm like, I don't work for you. You can go find it. We have the same access to internet, like, and books and the library and doulas and midwives and labor and delivery nurses. Like, we all have access to the same things. we just use our time differently. I'm not going to ever go to somebody who doesn't seem to align with my lifestyle or beliefs and force them to like be my teacher. I don't know. It's bizarre. So birthing at
Yeah.
home, elimination communication is something we're going to try, which is essentially potty training from a very early stage. And I think people are very dogmatic about things. They think if I say I'm going to home birth, it's because I think hospital births are wrong. It's like, no, I didn't say that. And
Yeah.
I think diapers are bad and I expect my child to be potty trained by 3 months old. Like, again, didn't say that. People just like to assume because you believe one thing or are going to try one thing, you must believe XYZ. It's like, no, and you didn't take the time to ask me, so I just don't explain myself and I don't feel the need to. But yeah, I could go on about all the controversial birth choices, pregnancy
Well, tell us
choices.
about the yolks. Because actually, I feel like people
Ooh,
are, I've heard more people talking about that lately, more pregnant friends, but
eating egg yolk?
hmm
I know, so controversial, wild. But egg yolks are so rich in choline, which is so important for fetal development and growth. And so I'm always posting these like gooey orange runny yolks. And for so long, people believed like you should never have egg yolks or like make sure they're fully cooked. And it's like, but then you lose out on so many of those nutrients. And I'm not saying if you're having scrambled eggs, it's not good enough. Like having eggs versus a Pop Tart is definitely better, even if it's fully cooked. Go for it. But yeah, runny yolks, nothing wrong with it, especially if you're getting good quality eggs. And I think most conversations around food and nourishment come back to quality. Like, yes, of course, farm raised, antibiotic, you know, injected, and sunlight depriving chickens are going to provide a very different nutrient profile than pasture raised, free roaming chickens. So there's that piece. Same thing with sushi. I've eaten sushi my
Yeah.
entire pregnancy. I'm also a quarter Japanese. Japanese women have been eating raw fish forever during pregnancy. It's such an amazing source of nutrients. But again, quality matters. I'm not having public sushi, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I had a friend's husband say that recently. Same thing. It's like, yeah, I didn't buy her gas station sushi, but like, it's
Exactly.
when was the last time like you got listeria from like eating normal sushi? I'm like, yeah, good question. Hasn't happened yet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm sure that I can just imagine because I think like no, I mean even getting married, like people offer you so much like unsolicited advice or opinions, or for some reason people feel invited to talk to you about their divorce. And I'm like,
Yes, it's very
but
interesting.
yeah, but whatever. Like, I honestly like, tell me what you want to tell me. But I
And create
think,
that boundary.
yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, this was another thing that you told me as
Oh,
a mantra, which I've been using a lot lately of
the good one.
it's not for me.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
I learned that in I'm taking a pain-free birth course, which also is very triggering to people. They're like, good luck. But
Dude,
one
I
of
would
the
hope everybody I mean, like all of this, like, dude, you're a first time mom. Who knows what's going to happen or not happen? But like, I hope all the things you want to happen happen, and same with everybody else.
Yes. My doula the other day was like, let's start thinking about a birth plan and let's put it together. And I was like, it's done. Have fun, have a baby. We're good. That's it. And that's going to look different. I don't expect it to be rainbows and butterflies, but the more I put out there that it's going to be a magical, joyful experience, the more likely that is to happen. So I'm just going to stay over here in my bubble. But yes, in this pain free birth course, one of the first videos, she talks about, just like you said regarding weddings, when you're pregnant, people suddenly decide that they want to tell you their most traumatic birth story, even if it's not theirs. Like, my neighbor's cousin's sister, she died. Like, it's like, oh, okay, thanks. And so
Yeah.
she kind of gave this mantra option of, letting people share their story, letting them kind of have that experience while also creating a boundary of that's not for me. And it's been so powerful hearing so many different opinions, whether it's about birth, whether it's about, breastfeeding, whether it's about parenting, just things that don't feel aligned for me. Instead of making that person wrong or telling them, well, actually, like stepping into my teacher moment, I just kind of tell myself in my mind and repeat, that's not for me. And it just kind of
Hmm.
cut that cord of attachment because sometimes this really hasn't happened to me. And I think it's because I learned this mantra very early on in my pregnancy, but it can be very easy sometimes for people to tell you something traumatic and it just like make you angry. We can think of so many situations that could happen where it's like, why did they tell me that? Oh, now I'm thinking about that. Am I scared of that? And so just
Yeah.
that's not for me is an easy way for just to energetically, it doesn't even attach.
Yeah, totally. And I think that that is a good tool for coexisting with people because I don't know, like you're not going to find all of your friends aren't going to agree with you on absolutely everything. Like it's good for navigating like, professional advice and whatever, strangers, but it's also really helpful with your friends. Like, you know, cool, amazing. That's not for me internally, but like, I'm not cutting you off from
Mm-hmm.
expressing yourself either.
Yeah, I think we're really quick to make people wrong sometimes, and I've definitely
Mm-hmm.
been that person before. So
Same.
it's nice to be like, you can be you, but I don't have to be you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely resonate with that because I think, I don't know, I can like exist a lot in this like world of right and wrong. And it becomes lonely really quickly. Like there's just no such thing as people once you start spending more than a couple months in relationships with people, you're just gonna have things that you're not like 100% on, and that's okay. Like that's normal. But
Yeah,
I feel, I think I feel triggered by personally by like wanting to keep the peace a lot. But disagreement doesn't mean that there's not peace in the room.
totally. I was just telling someone the other day, like, I acknowledged them because they disagreed with something I said, but they did it so respectfully. And so before I even responded to their opposition, I said, I just want to say, I really appreciate the way that you disagreed with me because most people can't do that. And it just
Mhm.
opened the, connection of like, you're right. We can be respectful without agreeing. It's they don't have to coexist. Like people think if you disagree, then you're disrespectful, or you disagree, you're against me. It's like it's not that personal.
Yeah, yeah, no, fully. Okay, let's talk a little bit about NRT because I do think that there's, I mean, I understand it as like this kind of mix of science and intuition. Like that's like my read on it. But I think that that is also really empowering people to be in their bodies, listen to their bodies, and navigate um, like disagreements or like from, I guess, like from a medical standpoint or nutritional standpoint. I don't know. If somebody's never heard of NRT before, what do they need to know?
So NRT, which is nutrition response testing, is a form of quantum healing, root cause healing. That's kind of my like 30-second spiel, and that
Mhm.
doesn't say enough, honestly. So it usually sparks a conversation. But what I'll give a little story about my introduction to NRT and why I was so sold on it and excited to dive into it myself. Like we mentioned, right before it was before COVID a little bit. So before COVID, I started to experience all of these symptoms again, from eczema, rashes, just like major inflammation. And again, if I look back, it's very tied to my social emotional health at the time. But again, I had gone to allergists, acupuncturists, like Western, Eastern. I felt like I've seen everyone. If you gave me a checklist of specialists to see, I could check them all off. I've been there. And someone said, you should try NRT. I was like, I don't know what that is, but I am willing to try anything. So I found someone that was near me. It was when we were in San Francisco at the time. So I found this woman, and within 3 sessions, I was 50% better. And that,
Wow.
if you may remember like how horribly covered my skin was and just how terrible it was, that was a miracle to me. I was like, whatever this is, I am in. I want to do this. That kind of reignited my passion for health and wellness from like a career standpoint. So I got healthy with her. I went and got my certifications. I ended up getting my master's in kinesiology, and I've been doing Moonray ever since. It's been so healing for myself and others. It's always so rewarding when people come to me desperate. And I always say, unfortunately, my clients are usually people that have tried everything else. I would love for us to evolve where NRT is now one of the first go-tos one day. But I get a lot of people who were in my shoes. They've been to everyone. They've tried everything. Now they're desperate. They're going to go for the woo-woo thing. And when we, help them get better, they're like, this was amazing. I'm like, I'm so happy that you experienced the way that I did. So yeah, very powerful.
Yeah, I feel lucky because I feel like I was like, oh, Shelby's trying or is doing this, I'll try it. Like I got to work with you from a not desperate standpoint.
Yes.
So now I realize how lucky that is. Also a moment for Shelby's skin because yeah, no, it's true. Like you've struggled so much with like the eczema and the rashes.
Yeah.
And you literally are like somehow more glowing every time I talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I do get compliments on my skin, and the first thing I always say after thank you is it's been a journey, because I
Yeah.
think people really see someone doing well and just think, oh, they're so lucky. Like it probably was so easy, whether someone's fit or their skin's clear or they're pregnant, like whatever someone wants in somebody else, they think it just came easy. So I always make a point to tell people, like, it was a journey. I had to work really hard to get here. So thank you. And that always sparks some conversation because they're like, oh, really? They like, what was it like before? What did you do? So it's a nice kind of opener into NRT.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You're like your own best testament in that way. Um, but okay, cool. So what do people get from NRT that they might not be finding in conventional or even non-conventional modalities?
So that's a great question. And it really, there is two pieces that really separate NRT from other things, and what I think is what makes it so successful. So typically, if you were to go to an acupuncturist or a, regular doctor, general practitioner, whatever side of the spectrum you go to, they typically look at what your symptoms are and then address that. And sometimes not so much in, like, the woo woo world. They may get a little deeper and go into root causes and stuff like that. But what NRT does really well is look at the nervous system. And when I say that, we're looking at two things that I'll explain, called blocked and switched, as
Mm.
you know, being a client. So when someone is blocked, essentially their nervous system is so blocked, as we call it, that it doesn't matter what you give the body. You can give it pins and needles from acupuncture. You can give it supplements. You can give it exercise. You can give it the perfect diet. The body's just not able to make the most of those things. So what we do in NRT is make sure the body is unblocked. That is the first thing we do, because it doesn't matter what I offer, what I recommend. If your body's blocked, I'm not going to have you waste your time on or money on supplements, different diet, or a new lifestyle, because your body's not ready to do anything with that. So the first thing we do is unblock them. Most people that are blocked are typical clients that come, and maybe you've seen this in breath work and yoga too. I'm doing all the right things, nothing's changing, like I'm eating well, I'm working out, I'm sleeping, I'm avoiding the light, like I'm doing all the like cell lights and TV lights, and I'm just not getting better. That's somebody that is blocked. Somebody that is switched is typically getting an opposite reaction. So maybe someone starts eating well and they gain weight. Maybe someone starts
Mm.
exercising and they feel more inflamed. It's someone getting an opposite reaction. At night, perfect example, I get a lot of these clients. It's nighttime and then I'm suddenly awake. And then in the morning, I'm tired. They're switched. Their nervous system is giving an opposite reaction. So first we make sure someone's unblocked, then we make sure they're unswitched. And until those things happen, nothing else matters. And I know that can be frustrating for some people. And I always tell clients up front, this is not overnight. You may feel a little bit better in a few sessions, but you're not like, I don't have a magic pill that tomorrow you're going to wake up better. This is a sustainable practice that's going to change your life, because you're going to have tools that you can use far after you're done working with me, which is my goal.
Yeah, I like that because I always respect when somebody has like an end in sight for the work, and yeah, like leave me with something. Like it's not
Mhm.
really. Um, I mean, I always thought the same thing with therapy. It's not like super empowering if you're going to need me forever.
Totally.
Um, yeah. Um, yeah, interesting. The switch thing of like, getting inflamed from exercise or something. I saw it a lot when I was working with eating disorders, with like chronic eating disorders. A lot of like opposite or counterintuitive things going on, like people eating very restrictive diets, but also gaining a lot of weight. I don't think that side of
Mhm.
eating disorders gets touched on so much, but
Yeah.
that's an interesting lens to look at it through from the switched lens.
Yeah, because there's such an emotional piece to our health, like we've kind of been threading through this conversation. So the nervous system's going to be impacted. Just like, and
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, we become blocked, unblocked, switched, unswitched all throughout our day, depending on, the environmental toxins we're around, the people we encounter, the conversations we have, the type of traffic we sit in. Like, there's so many things that just rock the nervous system, and there's not enough modalities, in my opinion, that address it.
Yeah. I always think I was a little bit stressed leading up to my engagement. That's a whole other story, but I laugh and always think of this about how the like session that I met with you like right after I got engaged, I was like suddenly unblocked.
Yes,
I'd been like
yes, I
block,
remember
block,
that.
block.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
I remember that. Oh my
it
gosh.
was like Diamond Ring RX is all I
Yeah, like,
needed.
oh, you just had a diamond deficiency.
It's a real thing, I tell you, ladies.
Heavy metals.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, that just to say of like little things that can throw us off too that are like outside of what you're eating or sleeping or exercising or whatever.
Totally. And that's the lifestyle piece of NRT. Like, I'm not just recommending supplements, I'm not just making changes to your diets. Like, I have clients where I tell them, you have to break up with this friend. Like, this friend is not good for you because they come to me complaining about them. And I'm like, it's messing with your health. Like, they're not worth it. So, there's just so many pieces to our health and well being that get overlooked in so many different practices. Like, I feel like there's nothing off limits with my clients and I. Sometimes they start something like, oh, this is TMI. I'm like, that doesn't exist here. Unload.
I feel like that doesn't exist with you in general, but yeah, you're
True.
very, very good at holding that space. Okay, maybe to tie this all together, how do you feel like your voice and intuition has shifted with NRT?
Mm. With NRT, I think going back to kind of this mid, like finding this happy medium. I think what draws people to me as a practitioner is that I'm a really no fluff. I'm going to give it to you how it is. So they appreciate that aspect of it. But I also give people grace because I really don't feel like I got that during in my health journey. I felt like practitioners that I saw either didn't believe me or didn't want to listen to my theories about my illnesses. And I think my like no BS attitude, but also like meeting people where they are is a really nice middle ground that has not only given me confidence in my practice, but also I see people being drawn to that. They're like, yes, I want you to tell me that I need to stop doing this in order to achieve this, but I also appreciate that I'll give a tangible example. I have so
Hmm.
many clients, especially women, that do not do well with caffeine, and it is such a hard drug for them to give up. So while I'm simultaneously telling them, like, hey, you're dealing with these issues because you drink coffee every day on an empty stomach, and or some people can't even handle it after food. So that's a whole nother um, issue that we work on. At the same time, I tell them, I want you to tell me if you are having 3 cups a day when we agreed on two, or, I want to hear that you're having it every day of the week when we agreed on 3 or 4 days, because what that means is we haven't replaced it well enough. So I never
Hmm.
take anything away, whether it's food, habit, whatever, without giving it a replacement. So if I'm taking coffee away from someone, which is how they feel, we replace it with something else. And the best way to do that is asking what that coffee means to them. Is it the taste? Is it the ritual? Is it a time for connection? Do you do that with your friends or your husband? Like, where is this coffee fitting into your life? So when we know the purpose and the excitement behind that thing, then we can properly replace it. So for some people, it's just the ritual. I like waking up and having something to do with my hands. Okay, great. Maybe we start transitioning to matcha. There's less caffeine. Eventually, we'll get to like an herbal tea, but they just need something to do with their hands. So we do that. But if their draw to caffeine is the ritual, okay, keep going to your coffee shop, but let's order XYZ. So I think that replacement piece gives people a little more confidence to make changes.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that that goes full circle to you saying like why nutrition coaching didn't really resonate with you, that like you're not a fan of saying like eat this, don't eat this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I found that in working with you too. Like you like gluten obviously doesn't work for you. You're gluten intolerant, but gluten works for me. And like there was no point where you're like, don't eat that pastry because it wasn't
Right.
problematic in my life.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. And yeah, similar. Like I don't know. I feel like what I'm hearing too is like this compassion that you're able to bring into practice. I'm curious maybe how you feel like you've also been able to show yourself that compassion.
Hmm. That's a good question. To show myself compassion. I think because I've always been a very confident person, I feel confident in giving myself grace or confident in giving myself, you know, that compassion piece because I also have that side of me that's like, go harder, work harder, push yourself. So I think I have such a strong sense of duality, if that's not been obvious throughout this conversation. But like, um, yeah, and maybe not always receiving it from others is a good way to put it. Like, I give it to myself and I try to give it to others because I know what it feels like to not receive that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think even like in your journey of, your voice, shedding a lot of friends, keeping some, gaining new ones, you kind of had to like hold your own hand through that journey. And I do agree with you. Like at the end of the day, like everything like shook out the way that was supposed to is just like a very like harsh transition, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Definitely.
but yeah, I feel like you've done a good job of being there for yourself through the whole thing.
Thank you. And you were there for me too.
I mean, that's easy. um, Okay, last question. So, I'm hosting this podcast to talk about all things wellness, but also to talk about the fact that, in case, people haven't noticed, our world is changing super quickly. Um, how do you feel all that we've talked about is serving you in navigating the changing world, and feeling into it, if you will?
Mm. I think a lot of the things we talked about come back to trusting yourself. And I think we've really gotten away from trusting ourselves as a whole. People want to trust the authority figure online. They want to trust the three-letter agencies. They want to believe that there's a leader of any kind, whether that be political, social, economical, that they have all the answers when nobody has the answers. We have gotten so far from trusting our intuition that I think a lot of people would really benefit from kind of isolating themselves for a little bit from information. Like, I think we're so quick to, well, I believe this, and so I'm going to find other people that believe this, and then I will feel validated. Or, I'm worried about this, so I'm going to go see what this person has to say about it because I can't trust myself. So I think with a voice, whether you're someone working on finding your voice or someone working on taming your voice or you're somewhere in the middle, like just trust that you have the answers, whatever that may be. And having the answers sometimes just means the resources you can trust. The pathways you can go down to figure things out yourself. And I think intuition is such a lost art and it's something more and more people are craving and need.
Yeah, yeah, that's very beautiful and well said. Couldn't agree more. Where can people find you, Shelby?
You can find me on Instagram at Shelby Torrese. You can find me on TikTok at Moonray Wellness. And you can book with me in April. I'll be back from maternity leave in April at moonraywellness.com.
That's so exciting. You're gonna have to come back and tell us about your birth story and all the
Yes,
things.
yes, definitely.
Okay, well, I'll be counting down the days, but I love you. Thank you so much for this
Love you.
conversation.
Thank you for having me.